This is big for the Chicago Bulls. We're going to be talking about the training camp battles that are going to help the Chicago Bulls get a clearer direction with their franchise. We're going to be talking about how these training camp battles will help shape the roster for this upcoming season. This is your host, Rico Greenhowe, and you found yourself on another episode of Bulls Digest. And so, yes, we are breaking down some of the biggest key training camp battles for the Chicago Bulls coming up this season. And we're jumping into an article that suggests the number one battle is going to be between Jalen Smith and Vuce for the starting center position. And I think that absolutely this is going to be a tone setter for the Chicago Bulls, because I think that you have such a contrast in the way that both of these players play, with Vuce wanting to play a bit more away from the basket. You have Jalen Smith, who I think is a little bit of a floor spacer and a rim runner. And I think that that is something that's very intriguing to go along with the young pieces that the Chicago Bulls have. In fact, I think it suggests that he probably should be the starting center. And so, with that being said, there is a couple points that this article brings up that I think are fascinating when it comes down to Vuce, the statistical numbers, and just the fit, and as to why the Chicago Bulls would want to go ahead and pivot. And so this is this particular article. You can find it out there, training camp battles that could dramatically change the Bulls. But more importantly, they talk about the points with Vuce, and they talk about the fact that he takes 15 shots per game, shot 55% in the 2-point area. And then they talk about the fact that he is a 29% shooter from downtown. And next, they talk about the fact that for all the usage that Vuce has, he only gets 1.7 points per game from the free throw line. All right, so just breaking down those first couple points, I talked about the fact that Vuce wants to play away from the basket, and that's fine if you're hitting those shots, but he doesn't hit it at a high clip, and it looks like that he's diminishing, and it is a chance that he could find that shot again, but I'm not sure. And with the way that this team is pivoting, it looks like it makes a lot more sense to go with Jalen Smith, who is going to want to attack the basket more, which I think that suggests that we are going to get that level of physicality that I've talked about on the channel several times. And we're going to get a player that is going to get to the free throw line. So I love that. And also, too, he's going to get there because, well, he's in transition. He's going to get fouled there. So you could expect for him to get there in that way. And then I love the fact that he will extend out and knock down these jump shots as well. He's not afraid to take the three ball. And also, too, he will take that pick and pop. So he reminds me a little bit of, a version of a Miles Turner. I mean, I'm not saying he's that guy, but he played behind him. And I love the fact that coming over from the Pacers, he's used to playing that type of style of ball where they're just playing fast. And so that's what the Chicago Bulls want to do. And I would have to think it is best that Vuce does come off the bench. And, yes, Vuce is a liability in this system. I mean, he doesn't have Alex Caruso. He doesn't have, Javonte Green out there anymore, and some elite perimeter players to really shade some of his defensive liabilities. And so I think that when you bring a player like Jalen Smith out, you're going to get a player that can erase defensive mistakes, which I think we're going to have a ton of that because we're not very good as far as being a perimeter oriented defensive team. So I think he's going to have a chance to erase a lot of shots at the rim. And then again, I think he's going to help us as far as getting to the line, getting easy baskets there, taking advantage of those mismatches, because looking through all the tapes and looking through all the games last year, I did not see Vuce take advantage of going down on the box on those matchups. I think he would rather play away from the basket, which was one of the more disappointing things that I had with Vuce on the offensive end. And I think that, yes, the Bulls would be better served going there. So I think that this is going to be an interesting camp battle between the two. I think Jalen Smith should win this. And I think that Vuce, before we trade him, probably is going to take a diminished usage rate, which suggests that he may start the games, but he's not going to play a whole bunch. Like, he is probably going to play just far lesser minutes than he's played in the past. And at some point, maybe Jalen Smith is the leading center and he's coming off the bench until we find a contender type of trade for him. So next up, one of the training camp battles that I think not a lot of people are talking about is maybe one between Patrick Williams and Modest Buzelis. I think that that is a training camp battle to me. Even though Patrick Williams just signed a new 5-year deal, I wonder, because if Modest Buzelis has this high motor, which I think a lot of us can agree on, he's going to push whoever's in front of him. He's already coming in thinking that he's the best player in this NBA draft. And I'd have to think that he's going to expect that he thinks he should start immediately, even though skill-wise, we know he needs to get some skills before he becomes an elite NBA player. But I think he has that motor, he wants to, and I have to think that if Patrick Williams is the player that is in front of him, stopping him to get those type of minutes and experience, he is going to be pushing Patrick Williams in training camp in every drill, in every scrimmage. And I think that if Patrick Williams gets off to a slow start, and if he gets injured, I'd have to think that Modest Buzelis is going to be ready to step in there. And if he plays well with these extended minutes, when they go back to Patrick Williams, I think that Billy Donovan has to ask himself, and it's going to be a huge question, even though the franchise did invest money into Patrick Williams, are you still going to ride with Modest Buzelis, or are you going to go ahead, pull him, and just give Patrick Williams his spot back? So I think that that is going to be an interesting training camp battle for me, because I want to see, is he going to push Patrick Williams to another level? Are they going to push each other to another level? Because I think that they are going to really have to compete, in my opinion. I think that this Chicago Bulls team in general is going to be competing. Next up, the additions that have come over for the Chicago Bulls. And I'm talking about E.J. Liddell. I'm talking about THT. I'm talking about Kenny Lofton Jr. I think that they are coming in and they are going to compete their tails off. All right. And for them, personally, they're trying to get onto this roster where we're trying to figure out the direction that we're going. And then, they're trying to get into a place maybe where we need the most help, and that's on the front line. And I'm talking about E.J. Liddell, and I'm talking about Kenny Lofton Jr. especially. Like, we need them on the front line, because if we do move on from Vooch and we don't bring a player back, then we have Sunoco, we would have maybe Liddell, we perhaps have Kenny Lofton Jr., and they're trying to show that they belong in this league. And so is THT. I mean, he went from being an NBA champion going over to the Jazz. It didn't work out. Now it's like he either makes a roster or he's going to the G League. I have to think he's going to try to prove himself there. And then E.J. Liddell, he hasn't even really been given a real chance because of the injury. So I think he's going to be competing very hard. And Kenny Lofton Jr., he has shown that he can play. It's just a matter of getting him in a position where a team needs him on that front line and they can afford to give him minutes. It's not like we're playing for a title or anything like that. So we can give him a true evaluation and see, can he be a undersized big in this league? So I think he is going to be going out there, or all these players are going to be trying to prove that they belong with the Chicago Bulls. Lastly, between the veteran guards, whether it's Lonzo Ball or it's Zach LaVine, Lonzo Ball is absolutely competing against Giddey, against Ayo, just to show that he belongs still in the NBA, and that even if it's not with the Chicago Bulls, he can still help a team win. So I think that he is going to be coming in and he's going to be battling. All right. He may not necessarily win the starting lineup, and many suggest it's going to be a minutes restriction, but I think that he is going to have to compete his tail off, in the drills and the scrimmages and things like that, to show that he's 70-80% of who he is in order to still continue his career in the NBA. So I think that he's going to be out there battling for minutes and a role on this team. And with Zach LaVine, he's battling to show that he can help a team, right? And he's battling to get out of Chicago, basically, because one, he's got to show that he can stay healthy. Number two, he's got to be really locked in to now take a little bit of a diminished usage role and still help this team win. I think so. That is going to be something that I want to see with him battling, right? To go ahead and establish himself as a player that can be a third, fourth option and be effective for the team. So let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think that, the Jalen Smith camp battle is going to be the biggest? Do you believe in this Lonzo Ball battle where he's going to be trying to fight to show that he still belongs? Or these new additions? Like, do you believe that, hey, that is the biggest story because they are fighting to still continue their career in the NBA, and maybe they are a sign for changes to come for the Chicago Bulls? Maybe there is a trade to come and these players are outright going to be on the roster. So let me know what you're thinking in the comments. Just want to thank everybody for liking and sharing and subscribing to the videos. It means a lot to us here. We're trying to reach 5,000 subscribers before the NBA season starts. Make sure that you go ahead and mash on that subscribe button, as just 66% of you that watch the videos are subscribed. So continue to press that subscribe for me. And look, even though we're trying to figure out what the Chicago Bulls are going to do with this roster, we're still saying go Bulls, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.